been some of you that's new, just to kind of give a little recap. So this is masterclass reclaiming tomorrow, 8 week journey to thriving after divorce. And I always say at the beginning of this thing is not just after divorce, but after separation. And I think the principles that we've been talking about and that we've kind of been laying out in this can apply to anything in our life, really, any areas of our life, and actually where we're needing to reclaim our tomorrow. So just have an open heart. I'll kind of talk through some things, run through some things, and then we just open up the floor after that for just like questions and comments and commentary and conversations and feedback and all that other stuff or whatever, But so for that first week when we started this, because we're doing this for we've been doing this for right now, we're on week 6, I believe. I think we're week 6 now, but we've been doing it for 8 weeks. So 8 week journey. That first week we talked about shifting from a survival mindset to a thriving mindset. Now, in this, I do have y'all kind of talk back to me because it makes me feel like I'm not just talking to a blank, to a blank screen. But anyway, so shifting from a thriving mindset from a survival mindset to a thriving mindset, hugely important if we're going to reclaim our tomorrow. And then I think we went from there and we started talking about guarding our heart, the proper way of guarding our heart, not with just putting a whole bunch of armor around it and slapping it up with chains and armored trucks all around. I'm not talking about that kind of guarding your heart, but we talked about guarding our heart with love, not from love, so that we can keep the heart flowing the way that it was designed to flow. Then I think we went into instead of just the idea of closure, understanding the idea of getting emotionally complete. All right. So not just seeking closure, because sometimes we get closures to things, but the wound is still bleeding and left open and all kind of, or we've stuffed it, the emotions of it somewhere. So really moving towards getting emotionally complete and dealing with any undelivered emotional communication that actually needs to be delivered. And then we talked about tapping into the authentic power, tapping into our most authentic self, our most authentic power, and recognizing that you are enough. Somebody say you are enough. I just want to reiterate that one. Somebody literally say it.
You are enough.
You are enough.
Thank you.
You are
Thank you.
enough.
Wonderful. Thank you. Or since y'all are saying it, you should say I am enough. But recognizing
I
that
am
you
enough.
are, there we go. There we go. Recognizing that you are worthy on a fundamental level. We don't talk about this a lot in our world, but everybody has worth. Everybody, every living, breathing being has worth, and it is not earned and it cannot be lost. I think that that's one of the hardest things for us to really deeply understand, but we need to understand that if we're going to reclaim our tomorrow and if we're going to pull from the most authentic parts of our being and the most authentic parts of ourselves. All right. So living from that space of recognizing that I am enough is not about my accomplishments necessarily, but I am enough as I am because I exist. And then last week we talked about releasing the expectation for others to actually really heal us, which also included accepting them where they are, how they are, where they are, bringing in compassion to that, and seeing myself and others as souls who sometimes have frightened parts of their personalities that show up and that are active. And when we put each other in the same boat, I'm not necessarily looking for you to heal me or to fix me, and it's not saying we don't encourage each other and we don't play a role in the overall process of life, but generally speaking, looking to them to sort of fixing us and all of these things, we release that, right? So then today, I want to go into guiding your steps or having guided steps and actually in this process of reclaiming our tomorrow. And then next week, we have 2 more sessions. We'll deal with guarding our heart part 2, as well as reclaiming my time. But today, I want to go for just a piece of guiding our steps and what that really looks like and what the importance of that in this whole role or in this whole process of reclaiming our tomorrow. All right, so hopefully I'll have it a little bit shorter today, and then we have more time to just kind of discuss this and flow around with that. But one of the first things that I want to make sure that we're doing in understanding this is striving to make sure that all of our interactions, all right, and for those of you that are taking notes, go ahead and write this down somewhere or just repeat it after I say it, striving to make sure that all of my interactions are conscious and loving. Somebody say that real quick, just conscious and loving interactions.
Conscious and loving interactions.
Thanks. Yeah, conscious and loving interactions. And I want you to, Actually, you know what, right now, put your hand over your heart and welcome in everybody that's just joined us. Put your hand over your heart real quick, and I want you to say that to yourself. Conscious and loving interactions flow from me. Conscious and loving interactions flow from me. Somebody give me a verbal on it. You know, somebody say it out loud. Not all of y'all at one time. Somebody say
Conscious and loving.
it. Thank you, Jennifer. Conscious and loving interactions flow from me. This is hugely, y'all. Like it's hugely important if we're reclaiming our tomorrow. Reclaiming our tomorrow is about returning to wholeness. It's about you being from the very authentic aspect of who you are. All right. So making sure and striving to make sure that the things that come from you, the interactions that come from you, they're conscious, meaning I've chosen them. All right. My communication is a conscious communication. And the actions that come from me, all of these things are coming from a loving space in me. And when I mean loving space in me, I'm not talking about all this old cookie love and I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy inside and this is that and the other. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the healthiest part of your personality, the healthiest parts of your soul, the healthiest parts of you. You're pulling it from the healthiest parts of you. All right. Not just pulling it from you. Because a lot of times people walk around talking about, I'm just being who I am. I'm just being what I was. And that's a personality sometimes that we put on in order to deal with the world. It's not the real us. It's not, it doesn't serve our soul, so to speak. It's just how we've had to navigate the world. It's actually a trauma response sometimes when we show up in that way. So I'm talking about pulling from the healthiest part of who you are and actually responding to life. Thank you for the heart, Beth. It's like responding from that space within you. All right. This is really deeply important. So one of the first things in line with that is consulting your intuition. What is your intuition saying? The deep, and we've gotten disconnected in our society. We've gotten disconnected from this sometimes. We've gotten disconnected from the most authentic part of our being and from that intuition that actually is helping to guide our steps. That's kind of helping us to point us in the right direction. And again, when we're talking about tapping into this space of guided steps and tapping into the intuition, this does not mean that everything you think and everything that you pull from intuition, everything that you pull from the wisest part of you, it doesn't mean that life isn't going to still be lifing. This doesn't mean that there aren't things that may still go left. This doesn't mean that there aren't things that still may not go the way you really wanted it to go. But what it does mean is that in the process of that, you didn't disconnect from your most authentic self. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does anybody? Yeah, thanks, Joshua. I see the hearts. I see the hearts on that. So that means y'all, okay, y'all got it. So it's really honing in on and understanding that pulling from my intuition does not control necessarily that something might not go left or that something may not go wrong. All right. But it means being deeply connected to who I really am and choosing from the innermost core parts of my being. All right. Then in addition to that, and I want y'all to somebody tell me how you're doing at this. It's like choosing your intention before you act or speak. Somebody say choosing my intention before I act or speak.
Choosing my intention before I act or speak.
Yes, choosing my intention before I act or speak. Not after, Beth Ann. Not after I done said what I've said and ripped up the room and broke everything down, broke everybody down.
Hey, I know you already, so don't give me that.
It's like
Cheater.
not
Cheater.
after, right?
Yeah,
It's
cheater.
like not after, but before. Yeah. It's like but before to really truly choose my attention. You are worth. Listen, y'all. You are worth slowing down to respond to life versus just getting caught up in this whole rat race that everybody. Y'all ever seen people in this rat race? Just throw your hand up or throw a heart up if you've seen folks just in the rat race and no blame to them, but it's like you get caught in the game and now you're not even really sitting and thinking before you respond in life. So then we're all reactive. We're reactive, and we're reacting in ways that is not really ultimately serving us. So we are not in control of our tomorrow. We're not in control of our, because we're just responding out of just mere reaction to things. And that happens when we get caught in that rat race. When we get caught in the rat race. So actually taking time to say, listen, I'm worthy to slow down and listen to my intuition. I'm worthy to slow down and to actually choose my intentions before I speak or before I act. Right? So consult your intuition, choose your intentions before you speak and act. And here's the third one. Act from, and I said this kind of ties in what I said before. Act from the healthiest part of you. That should be that part that's connected to the intuition of you. But act from the healthiest part of you. I know the temptation is to slap these folk that get in your face talking foolishness. You know, some of y'all names I know you're a slapper. I can see through this app that you're a slapper. It's like, so, so instead of actually slapping him, taking the time to pull back and choose from the healthiest part of you. And some of y'all I see saying the healthiest part of me is the slapper. I'm sorry. I just felt that in my heart. But it's like sometimes you're feeling like this is me, but I want you to stop, pull back, choose from the healthiest part of you, the healthiest aspect of you. And then, you're able to really lead into the kind of life that you're really trying to be. Now, listen, this doesn't mean choosing from the caretaker in you, the fixer in you, the teacher in you, the judge in you, the blaming person in you, the gossiping, nope, I'm choosing from the healthiest part of me that wants to simply respond. Sometimes the healthiest part of me says, just be present. My goodness, that's good if y'all believed it or not. But it's like, just be present. You don't have to come and show up to try to fix something. You don't have to come up and try to teach a lesson necessarily. Just show up, be present, listen to that intuition, pull from the healthiest part of you, set your intention before you speak if it's going to come to that, and then act. This is all a part of reclaiming yourself. I'm telling you, nothing like divorce and separation and relationship trouble, nothing like these things can pull us out of our center so quickly. Because we're riled up. Our emotions are, y'all get what I'm saying? I see the hearts. It's like our emotions are riled up, right? So nothing like those things. We're invested in this stuff. This is something we've given our life to. So when there's disruption there, when there's a breach there, we're agitated. We almost, in some sense, we get dysregulated. So regulate yourself, bring yourself back so that you can respond in the way that you really need to respond to. Here's another thing that I think that we don't really talk about a lot, or we're sort of kind of getting away from it, in our reclaiming of these things, and even how to align to this, to have conscious communication and conscious action, striving to make all of my interactions come from conscious choices and from a loving space. Speak specifically about you. Don't speak in terms of other. This is where have you all ever heard people say use I statements? Using the I statements. The reason for this is because it helps you to sharpen or helps you to hone in and focus on you and your intention for any situations that you're finding yourself in. For you to hone in on you responding from your most authentic self. Instead of just being general and abstract, be as personal and as specific as you possibly can. Use I statements instead of you statements and we statements and this is that and the other. I struggle with that because I speak a lot in terms of we. Some of it is because of the work I do. I'm saying we this, we whatever, I'm speaking about a collective and I do work for the collective. But when I'm talking about my individual things, if I'm in communication with people, I'm having to practice speaking more so specifically for me. I feel this, or I experience this in this kind of way, or I think this is that, and the other. And being specific about it, it actually helps me to focus on what is my intention in saying what I'm saying, and how am I being in connection with my intuition or with my most authentic self, and can I slow down enough to actually choose loving words versus blaming words, versus words that are not as specific and personal. All right, does that make sense, everybody? Does that help a little bit? We can get to questions in a minute, but I just want to make sure that everybody's tracking. Let me see if we're tracking. Let me see some kind of sign on You know, it could be a heart, a hands up, a tomato, whatever you want to put up. Let me just make sure everybody's still in the room. Everybody here? Everybody still here? Everybody still here? All right, cool, 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 good. Good beans. All right. And then actually that's my last point. That's actually one of my last points. So going through that again, in this whole thing for this week, we're talking about really guided steps. If we're reclaiming our tomorrow, we have to have guided steps. Oh, there's one more point, but have to have guided steps in this. All right. And in those guided steps, this is basically as simple as this. We want to make sure that we're having conscious communications. That's with yourself and with other people. All right. Conscious communications with myself includes what? When I hear that this negative self-talk is coming through, I replace it immediately. I tend to it because I'm going to be conscious and I'm going to be loving to myself. All right. But it's also the same when you're dealing with other people. All right. So conscious communications and actions, striving to make all of your interactions conscious and loving. This includes consulting with the most intuition, your most authentic self, that inner part of you, listening to that small voice within you, setting your intention or choosing your intention before you speak and act, and then acting from the healthiest part of you. I need somebody to say that real quick. The healthiest part. Somebody say healthiest part.
Healthiest
Healthiest
part
part.
of Czar.
Yeah. Thank, thank you. Thank you. Not of me. Healthiest part. Look at her push it. She's pushing it off on me.
I
Healthiest
got
part
you
of you.
back and I threw a tomato too.
All right, so the healthiest part of you, the healthiest part of your personality, all right, that you can access, the healthiest part that you can actually access, and then speaking specifically and personally. All right, and here's the last thing: trust God, yo. Whatever you believe about God, with the universe or whatever your higher power, or I don't know what you call it. I don't know I call it God. But whatever your thought is around that, trust, trust, trust that you are being guided. All right. Trust that you are being guided. You're doing all of the work of trying to tap into that most authentic self. Let it guide you. Let that guide you. Trust that you are being guided. This is huge because the more you start to trust that, even if something went wrong, but you trusted that inner core, you start to build other levels of this reclaiming. You start to tap into some of the other things that we talked about in previous weeks, believe it or not. You actually this is one of the ways that you guard your heart is by trust. This is one of the ways that you start dealing with the trust issues that you've developed from broken relationships. This is how you start to really get emotionally complete. So trust, trust that inner, I say trust God, but trust that you're being guided, but trust that the spirit, that life, the universe, again, however you frame that to where it makes sense for you, trust that inner, if it's yourself, trust that self to really guide you in this. All right. Does this make sense? Are y'all tracking with that? Everybody tracking with that? All right. Good, 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 cool. All right. We just about right on time. All right. What are your thoughts? Thoughts, comments, snide remarks. Talk to me. Holler at me. Issues, whatever. This was masterclass. So again, sometimes I push a little harder with some things than we normally would in just a regular audio room or something like that. Because this is, hey, you in here because you trying to master something. So, but what are your thoughts? What's flowing on your head? What's flowing on your mind? Let's talk. Let's open up the floor. Go ahead, Beth Ann.
Okay, I love that word trust. I love what you just said because that's exactly where I'm at in my life, and my whole life is really beginning to unfold to me in ways it never has before. And
Mm.
I'm the happiest I've ever been too. So, I can you talk about a little bit about implicit and explicit, and like how that relates to our actions and our internal thinking?
In what way? What do you mean?
I
Like,
don't know.
what
Just
is?
explain what that means. Like when you talk about like intentions and stuff like that, being intentional, that's good. I like that. So, can you elaborate a little more on that?
Well, explicit is something that's really clear, like in terms of what we're talking about now. So something that you're very clear
Mm-hmm.
about. All right.
Okay.
So with the intentions, you're talking about with intentions in it. So I think because our intentions do have to be very what would you call it? clear. Setting a clear intent. That's explicit, right? It's setting a deeply clear intention. What is your intention? I'm trying to really figure out how you want me to phrase it, but it's like, what are your clear intentions for when you're approaching whatever this is you're having to approach post relationship, and again, post divorce, if you're still dealing with somebody specifically, or just how you're responding to life and your well-being, being very clear on what it is. This is explicit, being very clear on what it is you're actually aiming for. Because a lot of times if there's too much ambiguity, we just take whatever comes. And you also can kind of fall deeply into, I shouldn't say kind of fall into like a victim mentality of things, but it's like when we're very explicit about this goes along with the speaking personally and specifically, sit long enough with yourself to figure out what is my real intention for life? What's my real intention for this situation? What's my real intention for how do I want to respond to this? What am I really trying to reclaim my tomorrow for? What's the real direct goal in that? What's the intention for that? Does this help? Draw it out of me, y'all. If this is not really hitting exactly what I'm talking about, pull it from me. You got to pull from the well. Does that make sense, Beth Ann, or does that kind of tap into what we're talking about? Or anybody else have any feedback with that?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yes, 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 and yes. I believe in doing that because, yeah, that's kind of like our compass, our internal compass when we are intentional. That's huge. Thanks. You gave me
Yeah,
some good nuggets of wisdom tonight. Thank you so much.
yeah,
I'll carry that with me.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Glad that helped. All right. Did that help anybody? Did that help anybody? It's like that part of the setting the intention and choosing your intention, really being clear on that. What is your accomplishment? Sometimes we'll be any of y'all ever been in a situation where you're in an argument with somebody, or let me not even call it an argument. You're in a conversation with somebody and it's getting a little tension. There's a little tension coming in here. There's some voices actually being raised. My grandmother used to say, you're doing all that yelling. Ain't nobody hearing that yelling. They don't hear that yelling. And if you're talking to somebody and you're communicating with them, don't you want to be heard? So is your intention to win the fight, or is your intention to be heard? Talk to me. And it don't have to be that exact example. But it's like, what is the real intention here? If we're arguing something or we're fighting over something, what's the real intention? Is it that I win? Is it that I get brownie points for being right? Or is it that my intention is actually to be heard? Or my intention is actually something else, whatever. Talk to me. Go ahead.
To be heard.
Is to be okay. So if that's to be heard, we got to be clear that that's what the intention actually is. That means that now I have to also align my behavior to how being heard happens. Does that make sense, y'all? I see a few hearts. Y'all quiet tonight. Y'all quiet tonight. You know. All right. So yeah, Beth Ann. So thanks for that question, because that's definitely that's a huge piece to being able to reclaim this. You ain't reclaiming nothing if ain't nobody here. None of your points are getting across. And when I'm saying points, I'm not just talking about in an argument or conversation with somebody, but I'm talking about just in the way we're even living our life. It's like there's sometimes you look at people and all you ever seen that channel where there's nothing on it, just snow. And sometimes that's what it's like when we have very explicit or implicit intentions and things like that. We don't really, it's just very ambiguous. It's just a screen like we don't know. This person don't really know what they're here for. They don't really know what they want. But as we begin to really set intentions for things, we start to align all of this stuff. I'm aligning my intuition with my intention. I'm aligning my intentions, my behaviors with those intentions. I'm aligning my personality with it. Because if my intent is to be heard, but I show up fussing, am I going to be heard, or am I just going to be resisted? Mm. All right. What else? What y'all thinking? What's your thoughts? Come on with it. Get it before my energy go down. What's some direct situations that some of you are sitting up with and faced with and trying to really reclaim regarding? Go ahead, Shannon, please.
Well, one of my initial responses to that is I feel like there's another piece to it. Like, yes, I mean, you want to be heard and you want to be truly seen, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
For who you are and what you're doing and being, right? But then I feel like where the disappointment or the struggle happens is when, or maybe the conflict starts, is not feeling understood,
Oh.
if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, talk to us about it a little bit. Give me a little bit more. It hit me in a certain way because I think it makes sense to me. But talk a little bit more about it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, like I feel like I guess just in my experience, like I'm thinking specifically of relation my marriage relationship, and that um I guess maybe that's like when you feel like you're telling someone your experience or what you're thinking or feeling, and there's maybe it's that you feel like they're understanding you, maybe
Hmm.
that like there isn't. I'm trying to think of where that un- sense of understanding comes from, and maybe it's connection. uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
like maybe the connection just isn't there.
Maybe the connection isn't there, and maybe some people because that's been a big talk lately. That in some conversations that I've even been in, is this need to be understood, and it's like, what does that actually mean to be understood? But I think that that also goes to this thing of said, what does it mean for you to be understood? You know, because I've just recently had a conversation, um, and I was saying that one of the things that now I seek in relationships is connection. And I used to read people's disagreement as a lack of understanding and either a lack of understanding, which also translated as, and in my little weird little mind, translated as, oh, well, that means we can't be friends. Or that means that they don't love me. Or that means that this is that and the other. So what is it actually really? And then I shifted, Shannon, I shifted to a space where I was like, you know what? I don't even know that is that I seek to be understood. I seek to be believed for what I'm communicating in the way that I'm communicating it, because there are some sense, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, you know, it's like, but some of this having to really explore what does it mean to feel understood, because it can feel lonely, at least for me, when people don't understand what I'm talking about. But what does understand for you all? What does that really mean? Is understand meaning that they really have made the connection to say they see what you're saying, or does understand mean that they have now come into agreement with?
Yeah, and I think that's important, like that distinction.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
How
and
do you? Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
and I think about that, and I like people to agree with me because I'm right.
That's right. That's right. No question about it.
Right? I mean, come
Go
on.
girl. That's right. Like, have you seen me? Like, I love it.
I mean, I'm a mom. I'm always right. Uh,
Right, right.
yeah, and I think that sometimes yes. Um, but for a lot of things there really wasn't that agree disagree. It was more almost like pleading for some acknowledgement of just understand where I'm coming from, if that makes sense.
Mm, mm, mhm. So in some sense, try to look beyond just your biased eyes, or what you, if you were saying this to them, to look beyond just your perception and actually see that what I'm telling you I'm looking at is not the same thing that you're looking at. I'm looking at the foot of an elephant. You're looking at the snout of one.
Right.
Is it in that sense? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mhm. So what happens? See, here's a thought too. So what happens when, if that person never comes to that? What's the feeling that you get from that?
Yeah, I think the way well, I think I'm disappointed. It makes me sad, right?
Hmm.
But I think I learned at a young age that there are people you can get that from and people you can't. And so um, I don't really knock at those doors, keep knocking at that door, right? Like I just go elsewhere to people who do understand me. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. All right. I was looking up the word understand right now, and even some of the etymology of it. It says to comprehend, grasp the idea of, receive from a
Mhm.
word or words, or from a sign, the idea it is intended to convey. All right.
Uh,
To view in a certain way, probably literally, stand in the midst of. Hmm, hmm,
hmm.
hmm. Yeah. To stand in the midst of, stand between. This is interesting. This is interesting. So, in some sense, it's kind of saying, again, I'm not asking you necessarily to agree, but I'm asking you to stand in the midst of what I'm looking at
Yeah.
and to at least validate that that don't gaslight me on it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, lots of gaslighting. But
Hmm.
I think too, like within that definition too was the word intend.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
From a sign that it was intended to convey. Hmm.
Yeah.
Understand my intention so that they understand what I'm intending. And that's not even saying, because I've done that a lot. It's like when I ask some of you all sometimes, like, what do you all feel? Or if I'm mentioning something, I say, y'all know my heart. I think you all know my heart, so that if I say something, I'm not intending to hurt you, to at least understand it and give grace if something came out the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand that ain't what he was really trying to do. I still don't understand what the concept was you were saying, but I do understand the concept that, the idea that you're not trying to hurt me. When we don't receive that, all right. Now, again, we can never ultimately truly control how a person, their understanding, their comprehension. We can only do our best to set that intention. What are we intending to convey? And then to do our best to make every alignment to that as possible, and hope that there is understanding, that there's some connection in that sense where they actually get where we're coming from. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
To at least get where we're coming from with it? Okay. All right, anybody else got any feedback on that, or can chime in on that? Because I think some of you have some of the wisdom for this too, or just have even deeper questions in regard to it, or deeper thought in regard to it. Talk to us. Does that help though, Shannon? Just that piece of what we're like, does that?
It does. Yeah. Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm. You're welcome. All right. Anything else? Y'all, we got 23 minutes. Come on with it. Go ahead, Beth Ann.
Sometimes I think it's hard to put certain things into words, and
I
um,
struggle with that a lot.
by being intentional and learning how to self-regulate, um, I think then I can begin to really think about what I'm saying. But sometimes I don't know how to handle certain situations that I know that are happening in real time, and I just don't know how to navigate it. I just don't have the tools. So sometimes my feelings get involved, and I don't. I've really done a tremendous work on myself with that. I mean, I went to zero to hero with that. Seriously, like I have my moments, but I'm I'm helping way more people than hindering them. You know what I mean? But once
Hmm.
in a while, I run across a certain situation, and I guess I just need to do some more deep dive on my own self reflections and why certain ways of people that I know are extremely manipulative, why that bothers me so much, especially when it's a female. I don't know why. It just
Hmm.
triggers me.
Mm-hmm. That would be something interesting to look at. We say a lot of times that we don't know what to do, but we do know what to do sometimes. No, we do know what to do all the time. Going back to what's the point of tonight? Striving to make sure that all of my communication is conscious and loving. That don't mean you have an answer for everything. It just means that what do I do in this situation when this other person is being with you? Be conscious, be present, and you pull from what's loving. Again, that doesn't mean it answers the conflict or it answers the question on the table or it answers the how do I get them to understand. Again, setting this intention is I'm setting the intention to pull from instead of falling back into the because I done got agitated, right? That thing I done got agitated now, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to whatever. I'm just whatever. I do know what to do. I know to stand consciously and to stand and to let my response be loving, even if my response is okay. I need to go step to the side for a second, but I'm coming from the love within me, not the frustration within me. Y'all tracking with that, or that don't make no sense? Y'all like what?
It does. But what about when you don't have the ability yet, or you haven't practiced enough, how to catch yourself in the moment and not react? Like just even the fact of just catching myself to make myself think about the intention. I,
Hmm.
I haven't mastered that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I haven't mastered it either. I haven't mastered it either, and yet here teaching a master class, right? Like get somebody else. Pick somebody else. All right. So it's like I haven't mastered it. I haven't mastered it either. And I think that the reality of these things is when we, like you said, the key words that you said though was I haven't practiced it enough. Keep practicing it. It's like we have to keep practicing these things and not just practicing these things when the moment is hot. We have to practice these things when the moment is not hot. I just tried to make a rhyme, and y'all know, y'all get it. All right, but we got to practice these things all the time by making it a way of life for us. So and practicing it with emotions that aren't just angry emotions or that aren't just hostile or resistant type of emotions. We practice it all the time. We practice Beth Ann mentioned earlier about self-regulation. We're practicing self-regulation all the time. All right. But overall, what is the intention for your life? What's your mantra for your life? And then how do I hold myself accountable to live to that? I use all the time. I've made these, and some of you have heard me say it before. And if you see anything that I ever write or whatever, and there's a salutation at the end that said hashtag I am love for you. I got it over all kind of merchandise, all kind of whatever. My work is all centered around relationships, spirituality, and mental health. I talk this stuff all the time. This is my everyday conversation, my everyday language, my everyday, what I'm making it a part of my everyday being. And when you make it a part of your everyday being, you catch it a lot more quicker than you would when it was not a part of your frequency. When you start to make these things a part of your frequency, it is practice. You have to just keep practicing it and keep practicing it. What if, like you said, what if in the moments when I wasn't able to catch myself in, well, you forgive yourself and you say next time. And maybe apologize to the people that you blew up with. There's also something that comes you're gonna remember if you have to stop and say to someone, I apologize because I did not just respond to you out of the energy that I really needed to respond to you out of. Guess what you just did? You not only did you try to tend to them, you also just set a pathway in your brain for solidifying responding from a healthy place. Does that make sense? So don't just forgive yourself. If at all possible, present it to somebody else. I apologize because I didn't respond to you out of my most authentic self or out of the intention that I truly set. When you do that, you start to vibrate at this frequency. You start to bring this up from within you. Does that make sense, Melissa? Does that kind of tap into it a little bit? It's definitely a practice though. And you're weaving it into your way of being. You're weaving it into who you are. You're raising, I love that terminology actually. You're raising your vibration. And you're going to have some hits. You're going to have some misses. And if it's a miss, forgive yourself and try it again. Or not even that forgive yourself and do it again. Go ahead.
I'm real good at the missing.
You're real good at the missing. Me too. I am too. Anybody else good at the missing? Who else good at the anybody good at the How did we become so good at that? Hmm. Somebody answer that question. How did we become so good at that? Might it have been conditioned in us to be that way?
I think, sorry,
Hmm.
that we're trained to react, to be on the
Hmm.
defensive,
There we go.
to justify instead of understanding sometimes the way people treat us is a mirror of how they're feeling.
Mm.
And so then we take it personal, especially when we're not healed and we're not in our authentic self or we're not in our highest vibration.
Hmm.
Then it's all just reactions and emotions and hurt feelings, and it's almost like a scorecard.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So powerful. And June just hit it right on the head. It's like, might we have been conditioned this way to be on the defensive? Slow down for a second, pull back, look at your life. How defensive are you in this life? How much one eye open have you had to walk around with? Watching with one eye open, sleeping with one eye open. We've been conditioned this way. So all of this stuff that we're talking about in these master classes and what June was mentioning about tapping it, living from the authentic power, this is reconditioning yourself and raising our vibration. Most of us live our life, you all, and I say this and I say it boldly, and there's some people that can probably try to argue it or whatever, but it's like this has just been my sensing in my little small bubble of the world. Most of our life is lived in defense. We're not living in intention of something, and we're living in defense of something instead of living in contribution to something. Living from recognizing that what's within me is how we say earlier, I'm striving to make all of my communication interactions conscious and loving. When I'm conscious, not just compulsive, but when I'm conscious, this is why we can't catch it in the moment, is because we've been trained in compulsion. We've been trained in defense. We've been trained in compulsion, but we haven't been trained in consciousness and been trained in contribution and trained in intention and choosing. I know there's the argument, oh, we choose every action, we choose but sometimes we don't consciously choose it. Do y'all get what I'm saying with that? It's like, so there is you're renewing your mind. This is what mastering is about. And mastering doesn't mean that we're going to get to a place of where we've perfected it so much so that we never have an error, but we've become very good at missing it because we've actually sort of been trained in that way. And it doesn't work in terms of serving the soul. It may look like it work in terms of, forcing our way through something in life sometimes for a minute, but it doesn't work in terms of serving the soul. So it's a deep practice that we have to really continue to practice. And like I said, you have to raise your vibrations to this. because things around us in life is actually in so many words, it's riled us up, but it's lowered us from being able to vibrate from the most authentic aspects of our being. So instead of responding from who I really am, I'm responding from the personality that was built up to that I erected to protect me from something. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Beth Ann.
And for me, it's about, self-competition is the best, like I'm not into trying to be better than anyone else. You don't help people in a third world country and think you're better than. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I don't think anybody else is better than me. Everybody needs to be heard and validated. You know what I mean? And I just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just gonna do some self-reflection and why sometimes I get triggered by certain people who I know they're being manipulative, and especially being a female. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of females that aren't like that, but when one is, it just really bothers me, and I got to get past that because I'm really authentic, and I think that's
What
the
is it that
problem.
what is it that bothers you about it?
I don't know. I just don't know. I
No, you know.
haven't.
Oh, you know.
I don't know.
Why does manipulative behavior bother you?
Bother me. And like when guys can be manipulative too. I just call them out. I know you're being manipulative. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I know it. They get mad at me, like my friends. But they accept what I'm saying. They can't argue it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I guess it's that seeking validation from others when someone's
It,
like that, and they try to
it,
be on top of other people by being the best, the shining
it,
star. You know what I mean? I
it,
don't know.
it may be, but I want you to look at that deeply and just think about it, just even practically, from a practical standpoint, don't even assign it to a female or a male. What's the issue with manipulative behavior when we try to manipulate another person? Why does that bother you?
I don't know.
What
It's like when
what
someone gets
message?
away with it. It's because
Okay.
it sends a certain message that my
There we go.
behavior of being manipulative, like should you be supportive and loving? Okay, yeah, you should always be in support and loving, but should you um how are
Make
you
people do stuff you want them to do?
no, at what point are you enabling? At what point is anyone, I'm talking about anyone, enabling? Could be male or female, like you said. I like that. That's good. Because I don't want to target anybody, but at what point are you actually enabling someone to be certain ways? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I get that, but I wanna look at the piece of why you say why does it bother me when someone is being manipulative? And can anybody else chime in on this? Think about it just from a humanitarian standpoint, just from a human standpoint. Go ahead, Shannon.
I feel that it's disrespectful and controlling.
And insulting.
What else?
It takes
So,
away your autonomy, your ability to make decisions for your own well-being. You're getting me started.
it's a whole list of things, right? There's a
Yes.
whole list of things, and are these ways that people should be treated? That we should treat
Yes.
anybody,
Yes.
right? It's like so Beth Ann, you see why it bothers you?
Yeah, yeah.
See,
And even,
if you
yeah,
Mhm,
I've
mhm.
I've helped a lot of people. Like I've helped a lot of people, especially in Africa. Like I have a lot of friends that I've helped. And I always say, just be yourself. Just be I don't care what situation you're in. Don't lie to me. If you didn't eat today, just tell me. Don't lie. Just tell me the
Hmm.
truth. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to label you. I love you. I have love for you, through and through, unconditional. And so just be yourself, And
Hmm.
so I don't know. I think it's maybe people are at a different place. Like I know there's so many authentic people in this room and like on circles. Oh my God. The best of the best are drawn here, really. And so a lot of compassionate people, a lot of people that wear their hearts on their sleeves. And that's why we're on this healing journey trying to reclaim tomorrow, right? But so yeah, it's just that's it. I don't like deception, and I've always been like that. Even as a kid, I grew up in this rich town, and like I just couldn't follow people that were like being inauthentic, disingenuine, deceptive.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
why can't, why do you have to be a certain way to get your way? Why do you have to use words in certain ways to maneuver a room? You know what I mean? If you're in sales or something like that, that could be really effective. You know what I mean? It is really effective. But if it's just, I know it's about people being people. I don't know. I guess it's where people are in their own healing journey and becoming self-aware. But at
It
what
is.
point are you enabling someone is the question. And that's where I've been trying to set healthy boundaries to where I'm not being defensive, but I'm learning how to guard my heart, as we've had in previous sessions.
Hmm. Hmm.
With all diligence, you know what I mean? And learning how to be intentional. And in the same right, there's hurts in my heart that are like, there's still wounds, from my childhood, from different ways people have treated me over the years, being misunderstood or whatever it is, right? I mean, we all can have similar ones, right? We've all been misunderstood at some point, and this, that, and the other. But yeah, so it's just about learning how to, again, just self-regulate and get back to, okay, what am I trying to say? What are my intentions? I want to have clarity, but I'm really trying to I'm working on, and Circles has helped me, and you've helped me, and so many others, and even this community has helped me to work on being my true authentic self and being
Hmm.
able to love fully and have love for you and you and you, in a oneness, as you used to say. I haven't heard that lately, but
Hmm.
in that kind of oneness thinking, the team collaboration type of thinking, no
Hmm.
labels, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
Judgment free zone.
Yeah, yeah. I think that even like you said, to answer the question of when does it move into enabling, and this is going to be the simple answer to that: when it's not coming from loving. And what I mean by that, really truly loving. When we enable, we don't realize it, but we're in people pleasing when we're enabling behaviors. Love knows how to say no. Love knows how to not get tangled up into the mix of in the enmeshment with people's foolishness. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that we say, oh, I've helped people and I've done whatever, whatever. Were you helping them, or were not you, Beth Ann? But it's like I'm saying this as an example because we say like, oh, I help people when people need whatever. It's like, well, are you helping them or are you enabling them? Were they being irresponsible and you came to their aid and you came to the rescue? And there's a place for that too. But it's like that this is a continual thing. Was that love or was that something else? And this is what we have to ask those questions of what's
Yeah.
really showing up. So this goes again to, because I hang on it. There's a reason that you don't like being manipulated. Nobody should be, who wants to do something that they really didn't want to do? I was manipulated into doing it. And if I have to manipulate you to do it, am I in love or am I in fear? Generally
Amen.
speaking,
That's good. I
there we go.
love that.
Yeah.
I
So
love that.
generally speaking, when I don't show up consciously and I show up with a part of my personality that needs to control everything and I show up compulsively, I'm actually in the energy of fear. And I'm not in love. I'm not operating from love. I'm operating from a fearful place. So even if it's I gotta convince you, or I gotta make you, or I gotta manipulate you to like me, or manipulate you to do what I want you to do, manipulate you to, it's coming from the fear. Like you said, everybody's on their different places in their journey. That's coming from people who are operating in a fearful part of who they are, or in an unhealthy part of who they are. But you and I are not able to control that. You can't control that. But it will bother you if you see it. Because the fundamental part of you, the authentic part of you, believes that people should be treated with dignity, that people should be treated as they are. They should be treated for who they really are. They should have a sense of autonomy. All these things, Shannon mentioned some of these things, that they should have a sense of autonomy and whatever. And instead, what you're saying is someone taking that away from them and quote unquote tricking them into or making them do something that they wouldn't have really done authentically within themselves. It bothers a heart that sees, a heart that really sees and truly loves, because love is about accepting things as they are and giving it what it needs to thrive. When we see that something is manipulated, I've seen this with churches. It bothers me when I see people manipulated into giving what should be heart responses. Because now some of the giving, some of the sharing, some of the alignment of behavior is not coming from their heart. It's coming from their fear that they go into hell if they don't do it. That's manipulation. This is the same things we do when we're in relationships with people. I'm going to use what I can use that's powerful over people as leverage to get them to do what I want them to do. It happens in relationships all the time. Sex, children, when there's been a divorce. It's manipulation, folks. It happens on the dating scene when people go and meet each other, and I'm just going to put my best foot forward because I'm gonna only present the good sides of me because I want you to capture. I want to capture their heart. I want to make them fall in love with me. It's manipulation. This is not conscious communication and conscious actions. This is not striving to make all of my interactions conscious and loving. I am not reclaiming my tomorrow when I act in this manner. I'm actually forfeiting it. I'm forfeiting it to an unhealthy self. I'm forfeiting it to an unhealthy world that I'm trying to fit in. I'm forfeiting it. I'm not truly reclaiming it. I'm not truly reclaiming my heart. I'm not really truly reclaiming my tomorrow because I'm living according to a broken system instead of living according to a healthy one, the authentic one that is aligned in the where I'm consulting my intuition, where I'm choosing my intention, where I'm pulling from acting from the healthiest part of me versus the fearful part of me, where I'm speaking specifically and personally, and where I'm trusting God to guide my life, trusting my higher power, trusting the universe to really guide me in this. That's how I'm going to reclaim my tomorrow. All right. All lines clear? Questions, comments, snide remarks? Nope. None. Good. All right.
I have a
I hope y'all
quick
got. Go ahead. Go ahead.
comment. I know you're ending, Zar, sorry.
No, go ahead.
But isn't enabling also a form of manipulation?
Yes.
Because in a sense you're enabling to maintain that relationship because you're scared to upset the other person or whatever that is.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Darn, Yep. Thank you for that piece. Because we don't look at it. We don't look at it that way. But it definitely is. Yep. Whew. All right, y'all. Go ahead, Beth Ann, real quick. Real quick. Go ahead.
Real quick, I just wanted to thank you so much for this 8 week session has been really amazing, and I'm learning that too about I'm making sure that I'm not enabling someone. You know what I mean? I'm
Mm-hmm.
making sure that I'm balanced. I'm balanced. I'm checking in, and I'm not seeking their validation because that's people pleasing too. When we can't say
Mm-hmm.
no or when we don't have those healthy boundaries. Not everybody should be straight in our hearts, right? People have to earn that respect, by being respectful. towards us,
Well, some
individually and
people,
collectively.
yeah, some people, and it depends on how you frame that. Because I've come to a place where I have a reverence for life, so you don't have to earn anything from me. I'm going to respond to you how I'm going to respond to you. But certain place, I get what you're saying though, like certain places in my, certain access to certain spots of my life or who I am. Everybody don't have a password to my bank account. So I definitely feel you in that. And it's like the relationship determines that level of access. But overall, in general, you don't got to earn my respect. I'm going to respect you because of who I am and because of what
Yes.
I've recognized as my worth. And because
Amen.
I'm choosing my intention to be that way. And I'm striving to make all of my interactions conscious and loving. Now, what you do with that is up to you, but you don't got to earn nothing from me in terms of that, I'm going to respect you because of my worth. To disrespect you is not speaking to my worth, actually. It's actually denying my worth. Woo! Y'all
That's
be getting
power
deep
right there.
at
That's
the
power. Woo!
end. Yeah, yeah. I am love for y'all. I hope y'all would be love for me, that you would find that in your heart to do the same. But yeah, that's it. That's it for tonight. So next week, y'all, next week we're gonna go into, I think we're going into next week into reclaiming my time. And then the week following that, it'll be guarding your heart part 2. And then that'll be the close of this 8-week session. So yeah. So like tell your friends, grab your keys, grab your friends, grab the dog and everybody and meet me here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, same circle time, same circle channel. All right. I'll let y'all later.
Thanks, Sar.
You're welcome. Peace.
Thank you, Sarah.
Most welcome.